With the Epstein story back in the headlines, people are once again trying to connect the dots, and each time, the connections get even more surprising. One of the latest? A link between Melania Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
Only I have my story. I know the truth.
Let's rewind a bit. Melania Naus, yes, before she was a Trump, started modeling at just 16. Born in what was then Yugoslavia, she worked in Paris and Milan before landing in the US in 1996, thanks to a man named Paolo Zampoli. He sponsored her immigration, gave her modeling gigs, and even arranged for her to share an apartment with photographer Matthew Atanian. Now here's where it gets a little murky. Melania was on a travel visa that didn't actually allow her to work. Yet she reportedly did around 10 modeling jobs during that time.
As an immigrant to this country, I would like to say a few words to my fellow Americans and to our friends around the world about the events of recent days. President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. The good thing is that he soon will be as irrelevant as an old tweet.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, the one man who can turn a punchline into a policy argument with a movie prop, fires back on camera with a grin and a line that ate the news cycle. Let's swap jobs, you take over my show, and I'll take over yours, and maybe America can finally sleep at night. The mismatch said it all. One man shrank the moment to a petty feud, the other used the feud to enlarge the moment. That is the thread we're pulling tonight.
Hey Donald, I have a great idea. Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV because you're such an expert in ratings, and I take over your job. And then people can finally sleep comfortably again.
I had successful modeling career. I came to New York 1996.
Zampoli eventually helped her get a proper work visa, and one of her first big gigs was a Camel cigarette ad shot by Ellen von Unwerth. It landed on a Times Square billboard and in Rolling Stone.
I'm proud of it. Yes, I am.
But here's where the Epstein connection starts getting interesting. Zampoli, who was shifting from fashion into real estate, still owned ID Models, an agency he later used in his partnership with the Trump Organization.
How Arnold, actor, ex-California governor, and global icon, has repeatedly turned live or widely televised moments into a mirror that makes Donald Trump look small, and why those moments stuck in the culture long after the chirons changed. Start at that national prayer breakfast in February 2017 because the stagecraft matters. It is one of those ritual Washington events where everyone does their best impression of humility.
And ID Models wasn't just about fashion. Models were reportedly used to help sell luxury real estate. Melania never had a real estate license, but she was part of this world. Now, depending on who you ask, the story of how Melania met Donald Trump changes. Zampoli claims he introduced them at a party during New York Fashion Week in 1998.
We met in New York. It was a fashion week and it was a party, big party, so we met there.
But I really fired him after it became the #1 show. It became so successful. And he wanted a commission, and he didn't want to do this. That's when I really said. But we had tremendous success on The Apprentice, and when I ran for president, I had to leave the show. That's when I knew for sure I was doing it. And they hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out. The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster. And Mark will never, ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold if we can for those ratings, okay? But we've had an amazing...
Cameras, choir, polite applause. Into that space walks the president, freshly sworn in, carrying the nuclear codes and a grudge against the guy who replaced him on The Apprentice. Pray for Arnold, he says, because the ratings are a disaster. The air leaves the room. Even the applause doesn't know what to do with itself. It's like watching someone wear golf spikes to a funeral. Then, almost before the breakfast bagels are cold, Arnold posts his counter. No yelling, no insult ladder, just an offer so clean it hurts.
I want to ask you a quick question about Donald Trump because, you guys both hosted The Apprentice. You don't necessarily see eye to eye on most things. He listed his weight at 215 pounds. You are one of the foremost experts on the male physique, bodybuilding, etc. When you size him up, what would you guess that man weighs?
You know, I don't really know how much he weighs. I can tell you one thing, that if you would ask me what should you do for fitness, I would just say run around yourself 3 times. You're going to be in great shape. Okay.
You do TV, I'll do your job, we'll both be happier, and the country can rest. Daytime shows run the split screen all day. Nighttime shows sharpen it. You don't need a pundit to tell you who looked like a leader and who looked like a heckler in a borrowed suit. The feud should have ended there, but Trump keeps score the way children do, forever and loudly, so the Apprentice saga becomes the second act. Schwarzenegger takes over the new Celebrity Apprentice and immediately finds out what a toxic executive producer credit does to any brand that comes near it.
Now, I grew up in Austria. I'm very aware of Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass. It was a night of rampage against the Jews carried out in 1938 by the Nazi equivalent of the Proud Boys. Wednesday was the day of broken glass right here in the United States. The broken glass was in the windows of the United States Capitol. But the mob did not just shatter the windows of the Capitol, they shattered the ideals we took for granted. They did not just break down the doors of the building that housed the American democracy, they trampled the very principles on which our country was founded.
Sponsors flinch, viewers bail. It's not because Arnold can't host a competition show, it's because the audience doesn't want to hang out with a franchise that still has Trump's fingerprints all over the safe. Arnold reads the room and walks. He doesn't whine, he doesn't beg. He says the brand is poisoned and he won't be back. Trump tries to spin it as I fired him, and the trades push the receipts that make the spin wilt. This is the second way Arnold beats him on television.
President Trump, I just saw your press conference with President Putin, and it was embarrassing. I mean, you stood there like a little wet noodle, like a little fanboy. I mean, I was asking myself, when are you going to ask him for an autograph or for a selfie or something like that? I mean, you literally sold out at this press conference our intelligence community, our justice system, and worst of all, our country. You're the president of the United States. You shouldn't do that. I mean, what's the matter with you? I mean, whatever happened to the strong words or to the strength of Ronald Reagan when he stood there at the Berlin Wall and he said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. What happened to all that?
He reframes. To Trump, ratings are validation. To Arnold, ratings are a referendum on character. If your name makes people change the channel, that's not a data point. That's a verdict. There's a deeper reason those early exchanges landed like they did. Arnold is fluent in 2 dialects America understands intimately: the blockbuster dialect of spectacle and the gubernatorial dialect of consequence. He can lift a prop sword on camera and also lift a state budget in a negotiation.
What do you think about Donald Trump running for president again?
You know, I think that's the past. And I think that we have to march into the future. And I think there are very talented people in this country on the Republican side that can run. So I would go, look in the future rather than in a rear mirror.
Trump only speaks spectacle. When he tries to punch Arnold in the TV arena, he's punching a black belt. And when the scene shifts to governance, Arnold keeps the same calm cadence that carried him through Sacramento, which makes Trump's grievance cadence sound tinny next to it. You saw that most clearly in January 2021, when Arnold looked into a camera and delivered the address that no one in Trump world had the courage to give. He talked about the night his father came home broken by a different strongman, about the danger of men who mistake cruelty for strength, and about swords.
And I tell them, I said, hey, stop whining. What do you do? I said, we all have a responsibility. What do you think, the action comes only for the whole world out of Washington, the White House? No. I said, most of the action is happening on a local level and on a state level.
So people should just ignore Donald Trump then when he talks about the environment?
I wouldn't say ignore it. I think you can be aware of it. You have to be aware of your obstacles, but you should not go and use them as an excuse, is my point. You got to go all out. Do I have a vision? I mean, imagine that when I was 15 years old, my vision was to go to America and to be a bodybuilding champion and to get into acting and to do big movies, Hollywood movies. What do you think the obstacles there were? Endless amount of obstacles. And it was very difficult. It was a grind. So did I surrender? Did I go and whine? No. I just said, okay, here are the obstacles. This is what I have to overcome. And I made it.
He called January 6th what it was, and he called Trump what he had earned. Networks treated the 7-minute video like a primetime speech from a head of state, looping it over riot footage and interviews with constitutional lawyers. There was no live studio audience, but the country was the audience, and the round of applause arrived as airtime across every channel. If you were in a newsroom that week, you heard bookers say the quiet part out loud. We need Arnold. He speaks to people who don't watch politics. Here's your first nudge.
But what are we to make of those elected officials who have enabled his lies and his treachery? I will remind them of what Teddy Roosevelt said. Patriotism means to stand by the country. It does not mean to stand by the president. Now you see this sword? This is the Conan sword. Now here's the thing about swords. The more you temper a sword, the stronger it becomes. The more you pound it with a hammer and then heat it in the fire and then thrust it into the cold water and then pound it again and plunge it into the fire and into the water, the more often you do that, the stronger it becomes. I'm not telling you all this because I wanted to become an expert sword maker, but our democracy is like the steel of this sword. The more it is tempered, the stronger it becomes.
If you've got a favorite line from that 2021 sword address, one you've actually quoted to someone who claimed it wasn't that bad, drop it in the comments so we can front load it in the cold open for the supercut, and tap subscribe if you want the edit the minute we premiere it. Back to the destroyed on live TV question, because what counts as destruction here isn't a single mic drop burn. It's a pattern where one person's presence shrinks the other person's act. The prayer breakfast made Trump look petty in a sacred space.
You said history shouldn't repeat itself. Donald Trump is now the front runner to be the nominee of your party, of the Republican Party. Given everything you said, does that concern you?
Absolutely not, because being a front runner of one party and letting them dig this hole deeper and deeper is going to make it easy for the Democrats in the end to win. It's sad to see that they couldn't come up with a new talent, with a new face that is a reasonable, smart, intelligent person that can lead this country in a Republican way.
You think there's no way he would win again?
No.
Arnold's clapback made adult reassurance feel cool again. The Apprentice walkaway turned a programming note into a parable about what happens when you treat politics like a casino franchise. Arnold refused to launder someone else's reputation with his face. The sword speech turned a week of chaos into a moral ledger. He didn't speak as a Democrat or Republican. He spoke as a man who grew up closer to the memory of state violence than most of us, and who knows exactly how slogans turn into broken windows and broken people when cowards put on uniforms.
If you are an immigrant, you're an immigrant in this country. Yeah. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ICE is doing, when you see the videos of it?
Well, I tell you, you said that the immigrant, I'm so proud and happy that I was embraced by the American people like that. I mean, imagine they came over here with the age of 21, with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and this is the land of opportunity. And I think because I'm such a proud American and a proud immigrant that came to America, I was asked to do, on July 4th, a big speech, the keynote speech at Mount Vernon, where George Washington was laid to rest, and where he lived and all that, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, the existence of America. And I will be doing the speech there. They asked me because I'm an immigrant, and there will be 7,000 some people there, and there will be people that will be sworn in and will become citizens that day.
That's great.
So it's really a great celebration. And this is what this is all about, is to celebrate people becoming Americans and coming to America and all that. And so I just think the world of the great kind of a history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal.
Sprinkle in the 2023 sit-downs where Arnold, asked about Trump's toughness, smiled the way only a man who has actually trained his entire life can smile, and explained the difference between discipline and theater. Toughness isn't shouting. Toughness is restraint. Toughness isn't threatening the press. Toughness is taking the loss and lifting again tomorrow. The reason those answers looped in prime time is because they carried the weight of lived practice. You can tell a million voters, don't fall for the bully.
That is the important thing, you know, so you got to do things legal, and those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest, and you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can to keep things clean and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do, rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant, to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. You have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever it is. Make this country a better place.
Arnold, don't
Or you can put the Terminator on at 9 p.m. and let him explain that real strength has nothing to prove because it has receipts. Now, you know we live in a culture that treats everything like a brand collaboration, so of course the feud bounced into late night. Colbert and company squeezed every drop out of the prayer breakfast absurdity. The bit practically wrote itself, pray for Arnold's ratings, on a chyron under a clip of the president who ran on making America great again and now wanted America to make NBC great again.
Our democracy has been tempered by wars, injustices, and insurrections. I believe, as shaken as we are by the events of recent days, we will come out stronger because we now understand what can be lost. We need reforms, of course, so that this never ever happens again. We need to hold accountable the people that brought us to this unforgivable point. And we need to look past ourselves, our parties and disagreements, and put our democracy first. And we need to heal together from the drama of what has just happened. We need to heal not as Republicans or as Democrats, but as Americans. Now, to begin this process, no matter what your political affiliation is, I ask you to join me in saying to President-elect Biden, President-elect Biden, we wish you great success as our president. If you succeed, our nation succeeds. We support you with all our hearts as you seek to bring us together. And to those who think they can overturn the United States Constitution, know this: you will never win. President-elect Biden, we stand with you today, tomorrow, and forever in defense of our democracy from those who would threaten it. May God bless all of you, and may God bless America.
But the real cultural damage to Trump didn't happen in punchlines. It happened in repetition. The more the clips re-aired, the breakfast, the swap jobs video, the quitting interview, the sword address, the more Trump's image flipped from ringmaster to heckler. You can't anchor a personality cult on the idea of being the biggest presence in every room if every televised comparison puts you next to someone bigger who declines to play your game. There's also a lesson in how Arnold chooses his spots. He doesn't pop up to clap back at every insult.
But Epstein also once claimed he introduced her to Trump, suggesting he knew Melania first. For the record, Zampoli denied that in 2019. And Melania? She tells a version that doesn't involve either of them. At that now infamous party, Trump was still married to Marla Maples and showed up with another woman, Norwegian heiress Selena Middelfart. But that didn't stop him from asking Melania for her number.
So he asked me for the number, and I said, I will not give you my number. So if you give me your numbers, I will I will call you.
He waits for moments where the country's nervous system is already raw, and then he speaks to the nerve, not the news cycle. That's why he got under Trump's skin at the prayer breakfast. That event is designed to wash away pettiness for an hour. Trump dragged pettiness in. Arnold hosed it down before lunch. That's why the sword speech ripped. The country didn't need one more partisan shake of the fist. It needed a straight line. This was shameful, and here's how we walk out of shame. That's why the toxic brand line stuck about The Apprentice.
So, what does Epstein have to do with all this? According to Michael Wolff, the journalist behind Fire and Fury, quite a bit. In a podcast interview, he claimed Melania was very involved in Epstein's social circle. Wolff even says Melania was introduced to Trump through mutual ties to a modeling agency that both Trump and Epstein were connected with. Epstein knew her well, Wolff stated. Politico has also pointed out that Zampoli, the same man who brought Melania to the US, had ties to both Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And here's a detail that raises eyebrows.
Stop whining. Stop whining. Whining doesn't change anything. Every time I talk lately to environmentalists and to policy people, they say to me, says Arnold, what is the point of fighting for a clean environment when the government of the United States says climate change is a hoax and coal and oil is the future? When the politicians in Washington don't care. You know what I say to them? Exactly what I said in my movie Kindergarten Cop to the kids. Stop whining. Stop whining. Whining doesn't change anything. Whining doesn't build anything. You can't just sit around and make excuses because one guy in a very nice White House on Pennsylvania Avenue doesn't agree with you. I know all of you are thinking now, I hope, that Arnold attacks Trump and says some really terrible things about Trump, right? But that's not my style. First of all, I have a rule. I do not criticize a president outside of our borders. No matter who it is, no matter what party he belongs to or she belongs to. Second of all, I know that the people are sick and tired of the whining and the complaining and the doom and gloom. They want heroes. They want more complaints. That's not what we want, and that's not what we need. We have to win the people over. And the only way we win the people's hearts and minds is by showing them action that makes their lives better. And I'm not talking about making their lives better in 20 years from now, but I'm talking about making their lives better now.
One man threw his hands at the Constitution, the other held up a sword and reminded the country what steel looks like when you put it through fire and hammer. That isn't just a feud, it's an instruction manual for viewers who are tired of being told that spectacle is strength. If you're on YouTube, subscribe so you don't miss the premiere. We'll keep bringing the receipts and the edit. You bring the taste for truth.